Slanjava music producers, how is it going? That's right, we are going to learn a bit about E17 and what they can teach us about music making. So, I know this is a bit of a random one, but it is Christmas, and it was one of the first Christmas singles I ever got on cassette tape as a child. I actually had it, and I still think their tune Stay Another Day is a bit of a banger. So let's dive into 4 quick things we can learn from E17 about music making, music production, and stuff like that as our special Christmas episode. Yes! So the first thing is be authentic. And you might be thinking, well, Dave, come on, it's a boy band. How authentic is it? It's the most manufactured thing ever. But the songs have still got to come from somewhere, which is cool. And Tony was the main singer and songwriter in the band. And he said the title was bouncing around in his head because a close friend's father was dying in hospital, but suddenly rallied and survived another 24 hours. Stay another day. And then lyrics also drew on his brother's suicide as well, which is getting pretty deep and not sounding that Christmassy. But then he wrapped it up in this song that was kind of disguised all about kind of 2 lovers parting as well. So that authentic emotion and feeling was put into the song. And, I'm kind of thinking, it's a Christmas number 1, it's a boy band, should we take this that seriously? But at the end of the day, it's one of the biggest selling songs 30 years later. It still comes round every time as well. So, a lot of deep kind of experiences sad experiences for Tony went into this. But it kind of came out with a song. So basically, I'm thinking you got to be authentic, write about what you feel. Music's about communication. It's about expressing yourself. So write what you feel, whether it's music or lyrics. And even if you're not sitting down to be like, I feel like this, so I will write this. Just like, let it flow and try not to analyze why at the moment, and try and think of it as you go along. Maybe reflect on it at a certain point and be like, oh, maybe that's coming from that. Maybe that lyric or that line's coming because I experienced this, and then lean into it a bit more. Okay, so the next tip in this Christmas special on Whiskey and Synths, E17, one of the most famous Christmas songs ever. Although I don't think it actually mentions Christmas. They're in the white parkas in the video. Stay Another Day. It's like people often have to separate at Christmas, not just get together. So yeah, it's a famous Christmas song. And the next tip I want to share from it is don't be afraid to make decisions that serve the song, not just your ego. All right, so this is a cool one. So Tony said that it was so personal, I didn't want to release it as a single, but the manager Tom was like, that's a Christmas number 1. And then they recorded it in August, and he wanted to sing the lead. Makes sense. Wrote it, emotional. I want to sing the lead. And then also, funny side quest note that they recorded the Christmas song in August. And but everyone said Brian Harvey should sing it, who was the other singer in the band, even though he didn't like the song and didn't want to. So Tony was a bit insulted and got sent home early, whilst the other guy, Brian, sang it wonderfully. So it's a good example of just being like, oh, you got to serve the song sometimes, even if it is your own one. And I think usually you'll get to make your own judgment on that. But if all your trusted collaborators or friends and family are saying you got to do this with it, maybe at least do a version of it that way and trust that and serve the song at the end of the day. All right, third tip on this one is trust your original demos and ideas, right? So don't overwork them. Trust your original inspiration, even if there are some other cool ideas along the way. And then we've had examples of that in the podcast before. Churches say they have their demo in the session when they're recording the main version of it. Loads of artists have said it, and this is reiterated here. So it's one of my favorite tips of the year, let's say, from famous artists, is trusting in that initial spark of inspiration. And here's E17's story on it. Basically, Tony apparently didn't have the technology well enough to make proper demos, but they made it at home with 2 other producers and writers, Dominic and Rob, for Stay Another Day. Then Ian saw the potential in it, who was one of the kind of songwriter, producer people they were working with, and started rearranging it. But Tony hated the new arrangement and went back to the originals. He told us, make it sound massive like Beethoven, and even suggested Tubular Bells, which made it more Christmassy. So they went back to their original demo and tried to get the spirit of it, and that's what made it the song it is. So trust your original ideas. A lot of creativity is about trusting maybe in yourself, but maybe where does that idea come from? Maybe it's outside of yourself and channeling through you, and you got to trust that. And that's a big thing music makers and music producers often stumble over. Just, treat yourself like your own best friend and trust your best ideas, even if you don't know why. Trust that initial spark of inspiration and try and maintain it through to completion. Now, before we get into our next and final tip from E17 in this Christmas special, if the New Year's coming up and you're like, oh, I've got all these dusty Ableton projects on my hard drive, and you want to finish them, well, click below, because I've got a 10-day, 10-step challenge. You'll just be like, yeah, it's amazing. Get cheers in yourself at the end of it. And it's a free challenge where I just send you a quick email every day. You do 30 minutes on the track, follow the checklist I give you, easy as that, and you'll go from a bunch of loops to a self-mixed, self-mastered track that you can even submit to Tonic Note Records, which is my label, and we do compilations of all the artists that submit. So it would be a fast-track way to get your track kick-started in the new year. Click below and sign up to it. Hope you enjoy that. Now, let's go to our final tip from E17 in this Christmas special. Let's go. So the last tip is also another tip we've had from other famous artists on this podcast as well. I'm pretty sure Churches said this, Bicep said this. This in a way, this is a little roundup podcast of the year, because surprisingly, E17, the boy band, say some similar things that we've had on the podcast from these hallowed artists like Bicep. So this one is a classic, though. You've probably heard this loads of times before, but don't be afraid to strip parts out. So Tony's demo had all these terrible Phil Collins style drums, which sounded unlistenable with the orchestra, says Phil, the producer. And he said that at 2 a.m. he laid down a mix without the bass and drums, then went on holiday, intending to finish it when I got back. And then when he got back, Tom was like, who's involved in the band, Tom was like, everybody loves it, don't change a thing. And that was that. So they stripped out a lot of stuff, and that was fine as well. So you got to maintain the original spark of inspiration in your demo, but it's okay to strip layers away if they're not working in your mix later, as long as you retain that seed of inspiration. So I hope you've enjoyed this little Christmas episode. I've enjoyed making it. A bit of a funny one in a way. E17, I bet that's a curveball for you, but we've got to do it. Maybe this could be a tradition on the podcast, a Christmas song every year. And maybe we should do a scary song at Halloween every year. And hopefully it's a bit of a roundup of the tips. Of two of these tips we've had in other videos. And like I said, I'm out here to not tell you how to EQ a snare or a kick drum, although I could help you with that, or stuff like that. These are really aimed to get producers like you creating confidently and trusting in your artistry, because you're amazing. What you do is really important. No one else can be you, right? And music's job is to communicate feelings and emotions and stories, and that you can do it. And if you hopefully these inspire you to trust in yourself and trust in your ideas as much as you can, and hopefully they're a bit of fun to listen to as well. Hopefully they're a bit different from the other podcasts saying buy this synth, buy this synth, buy this synth, buy this plugin. Like I love tech and that, but it's not going to make you a better artist at the end of the day. It might help your mixes technically get a bit better. And I do love gear and equipment, but YouTube's just saturated with all that stuff. So hopefully this little corner of the internet where you are is getting some positive vibes on the artistry behind music making. And if you do need help with the technical stuff, I have been producing since 2016. Even before that, but that's when I started taking it seriously. I run a couple of studios at a college in Kent, and I also run helping people with their music production on the technical side too. But you got lots of that on the internet. So this podcast is dedicated to this just now, and I hope you enjoy it. Hope you have an amazing Christmas, New Year. If you don't celebrate Christmas, hope you have an amazing just winter period. Full stop. Hope you're having a great time as well. But yeah, cheers for tuning in. Enjoy your whiskey, enjoy your synths. Hope you stay for another day of this podcast another time. Right, I better go now because that was a bad dad joke. I'll catch you later. Bye.
Whiskey.